own brother. 3-year-old mother of 2 is dead after being shot by her own brother on Christmas Eve. Abrielle Baldwin was trying to break up an argument between her siblings when one of them pulled out a gun. Fox 13's Evan Axelbank reports on what has the sheriff furious and the changes he is now calling for.
Photos Abrielle Baldwin posted to social media show her filled with joy.
She's just a woman going about life, doing her thing with her 2 kids, trying to make a living, trying to make it.
On Christmas Eve, while at her grandmother's home on 22nd Avenue in Largo, she'd had enough of her brothers bickering. DeMarcus and Darcus began pulling guns on one another.
Abrielle told DeMarcus, quote, "You all need to leave that stuff alone. Why are you trying to start it? It's Christmas."
They both had been fighting over Christmas presents, with the 15-year-old Darcus jealous that their mom had spent more on gifts for 14-year-old DeMarcus. After Abrielle stepped in, DeMarcus pulled a gun and fired, killing her and sending her son and his nephew, an 11-month-old, falling to the ground.
The 14-year-old who's mad at the 15-year-old because mom's not buying equal amounts of gifts. They get to grandma's house, and he takes out his gun and tells him he's going to shoot him in the head. So DeMarcus tries to get Darcus to fight. Darcus said he didn't want to fight and told him to get out of the house, and he didn't want anything to do with it. DeMarcus was standing by a parked vehicle in the driveway when Abrielle told DeMarcus, quote, "You all need to leave that stuff alone. Why are you trying to start it? It's Christmas." And at that point, Abrielle was in the driveway and she was carrying her 10-month-old baby in a carrier in her hand. DeMarcus then began arguing with Abrielle and used some very, very derogatory language, I won't repeat it all, and all kinds of profanity. DeMarcus then moved toward Abrielle and shot her in the chest with a .40 caliber semi-automatic handgun, again, while she's carrying the baby. Abrielle fell to the ground, so did the baby. The baby wasn't hurt because the baby was in a carrier.
Show your face. Show your face, please, with sugar on top.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Y'all know my slogan. I don't know it all, but I know what I've been through. Now, before we get into this video, please make sure you head on down to Instagram and follow us on our official Instagram page at Hookah Anonymous _. We're able to be a little more explicit, a little more uncensored, and share content freely without running the risk of having our channel terminated. So, once again, make sure you head on down to Instagram and follow us on our official Instagram page at Hookah Anonymous _. We're almost at 100,000 subscribers, so if you like this video, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell so you're notified every time we drop new content. Now let's get into what you guys came here to see. Now, you would think with the holidays passing and the new year approaching that everyone would be in the spirit to celebrate with their families and plan their new goals for the new year. However, everyone don't have that same energy, and in fact, some of us were more worried about the types of gifts that they received or how many gifts they received rather than appreciating the fact someone thought of them enough to actually buy them something. Keep in mind that there's some families that couldn't give because of their financial circumstances, and with the way the economy is today, you should be lucky someone went in their pocket and spent their hard-earned money on you. In the case of 23-year-old Abrielle Baldwin, a mother of 2 who was killed during the festive holiday in Largo, Florida, this is a situation that didn't have to take place. But due to a hot-headed 14-year-old, 3 people's lives are now ruined, including his. 1 person isn't here today to see the new year. Not only did the mother pass away as a result of her injuries, but the suspect, who was her little brother, was shot as well, but he is expected to survive after undergoing surgery. Sources say that the dispute at hand wasn't even something that started with Abrielle, but finished with her, as it seemed like the little brother took his frustration out on her at the time of the shooting. In a time where people are supposed to be celebrating and giving joy, unfortunately, this was a Christmas that I'm sure none of the family members are going to want to remember. So before we get into the story of Abrielle Baldwin, I want you guys to give this video a thumbs up so we can get it into the algorithm and bring awareness to our story. Subscribe to the channel if you aren't already so you can stay updated on these type of stories, and let us know who else you would like us to cover in the comments below. Now let's get into the story. It all started on Christmas Eve while 2 brothers were out shopping for Christmas gifts with their mother and sister. 14-year-old DeMarcus Coley and his brother 15-year-old Darcus Coley will argue over who was receiving more gifts for the Christmas holiday. In a situation where most would think that it's not that serious, however, when you mix weapons with a child, it's just a recipe for disaster, as we would see as things carried on. After they finished their shopping, the mother, their 23-year-old sister Abrielle, and her 2 children ages 6 years old and 11-month-old would decide to go back to their grandmother's house in Largo, where the young brothers would continue to argue with each other. No one would expect what happened next, as the argument got so intense, 14-year-old DeMarcus would take out a .40 caliber semi-automatic handgun and stand in the doorway of the home. That's when the 14-year-old would threaten his brother by pointing the weapon at him and told him he was going to shoot him in the head. The family would convince the teen to put the weapon away. That's when he would still try to fight his older brother until their uncle had to separate the two, taking the 14-year-old outside to the driveway where Abrielle was carrying her 11-month-old baby in a carrier. Still fuming and hot-headed from the incident with his older brother, the 14-year-old would do the unthinkable after his sister would tell him, quote, "Y'all need to leave that stuff alone. Why are you trying to start it? It's Christmas." Now, 2 things. I'm confused as to why the weapon was never taken from the 14-year-old as he was taken outside. It's almost as if it was just normal for him to have one, so much that nobody panicked or thought to take the weapon from him, being that he's only 14 years old. The other thing I wondered is in the articles it wasn't specified what she meant by "leave that stuff alone." She could have meant drugs, or she could have simply meant that they need to leave the situation alone because it's not that serious about who gets more gifts. But the reason I brought up drugs is because if the kid was brazen enough to shoot his own sister over an argument with his own brother over Christmas gifts, there's no telling what may have led him to act in such way. Not to mention, if he's carrying guns at that age, I wouldn't be surprised if he's also using certain substances as well, as we know a lot of these kids these days are starting to consume drugs at a very early age. Whether it's marijuana, pills, or alcohol, these kids see their favorite music artists do it and try to imitate the same image of their idols. So there's no telling, but that's just my observation. However, after telling her little brother that they need to leave that stuff alone, that's when the 14-year-old would start an argument with her as well, calling her all types of names and curse words, and then proceeded to shoot her in her chest as she was holding her 11-month-old baby. As Abrielle was shot, she immediately fell, and so did the baby, even though the baby made it out unharmed. But it didn't stop there, because right after he shot his sister, the 15-year-old brother that he was originally arguing with would come outside with a .45 caliber semi-automatic handgun himself. That's when he would yell, quote, "You shot my mother effing sister," and then proceeded to shoot his 14-year-old brother in the stomach. Pinellas Sheriff's Office would note that everything happened so fast as it was just an 8-second duration between the time after the 14-year-old shot his sister than being shot himself. Police state that at the time he was shot, he was no longer in possession of the weapon he shot his sister with, but upon investigation on the scene, police would find a .40 caliber used by the 14-year-old. Reports say the 15-year-old brother ran after shooting his little brother, threw the weapon in the nearby yard that haven't been discovered by police, then fled to a family member's house in Clearwater in efforts to escape the law for doing what he did. Abrielle was taken to a hospital where she was pronounced dead, and although articles say she was shot in the chest, other sources say that the bullet traveled through her left arm and into her chest, popping both of her lungs. She suffered internal bleeding, which caused her to be unable to breathe and later succumbed to her injuries. The younger brother stayed on the scene for medical care, where he was taken to the hospital to undergo surgery, where he is now in stable condition. He will be released from the hospital to the Florida Department of Juvenile Justice. At first, it was unclear whether the 14-year-old would be charged as an adult or not, but the Pinellas Pasco County State Attorney's Office will be the ones to make that determination. As of now, he will be charged with first-degree murder, child abuse, and delinquent in possession of a firearm. When it comes to the 15-year-old brother, when he was located in Clearwater, officers said he made self-harm statements and was taken to a mental health facility. Although most may think that he was just defending his sister, the 15-year-old was charged with attempted first-degree murder and tampering with physical evidence, being that the police weren't able to locate the .45 caliber that he used to shoot his younger brother. Now, if you're like me, you're wondering how or why was it so easy for these young teens ages 14 and 15 to tote such high-power weapons or just have access to weapons, period. But as officers interviewed locals, they would tell police that the two teenage brothers were known to carry guns all the time. One local stated that the brothers got their firearms a few ways, with one of them involving car burglaries, where the two would steal the weapons from unlocked cars in the middle of the night when everyone was asleep in their houses. In fact, he also says that the two are also known for car burglaries and were arrested for committing such crimes back in May of this year. When it comes to the 14-year-old, he even has arrests dating back to when he was just 12 years old. Now, of course, people are going to blame the gun laws and push for harsher laws, but the only problem I have with that is those same laws will only make it harder for the ones that are permitted to carry them and not the criminals. In events like these, it's the people who aren't carrying firearms legally that perform these acts, which means that they've gotten access to weapons illegally anyway. So how do you stop people who aren't supposed to have guns anyway from having them if they obtained it unlawfully? It'll forever be an ongoing problem, and I'll be lying if I said I had answers on how to prevent it from happening. But witnessing situations like this only confirms that something does need to be done. Now, when it comes to the case of Abrielle Baldwin, 3 young lives have been ruined all over something so foolish and unnecessary. 2 teens who face years in prison, possibly the rest of their life, and the mother of 2 who is no longer here, all over an argument over who will receive more Christmas gifts. I'm sure the family is mourning as they lost 3 relatives. My condolences go out to the family, and as more reports come out on this situation, I'll keep you guys updated. Y'all jump in the comments, let me know how y'all feel about this. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell so you're notified every time we drop new content. And remember, as long as you keep on watching, I'm going to keep on dropping. And I'm out.